I just wanted to thank you all for being here today with us at our check-in at the Senior Center. And it's my pleasure to introduce Mike Derzon, who has worked closely with the Bainbridge Island Land Trust and is a former trail steward at the Ted Olson Nature Preserve. And that's it's one of my near and dear places, being a hiker on the island, and I've been a hiker for 20 years. And so near and dear to my heart. So we're so happy you're here, Mike. So take it away.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I appreciate that, Carolyn and Karen. So first of all, I want to say that I want to thank you all for any past efforts, and I'm sure you've made them, on behalf of the Land Trust or open space or parks here on the island. I think one of the great gifts that we all have given to the community here on the island are these great parks. And the Parks District has been outstanding throughout its history and really getting a lot of land. The Open Space Commission through the city has done a lot. And of course, the Bainbridge Island Land Trust has worked tirelessly for, I think, 31 years to help preserve land on the island. So I feel like what I'm going to talk about today is part of that long story that is one of Bainbridge Island's treasured gifts, which is open space, parkland, hiking trails, etc. So thanks for letting me talk about it, and thank you for all that you've contributed years. Ted Olson Nature Preserve has a long and interesting history. But before I tell you that history, I think I'm going to show you, just in case you don't know exactly where it is, a little map of the island and where we're talking about. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see the map right now on the island? And this is Rolling Bay. And here's the middle of Rolling Bay with Bay Hay right there. Feed. If we zoom in a little bit, here is the Ted Olson Nature Preserve. And here's where I live. It's very close by. If we zoom in just a little further, be able to see the actual land. Here is the original 10-acre plot. Are you following this okay? Does this show up? Well, I'm assuming it does. So here's the 10-acre plot, and here is a 5-acre adjacent piece of land. If I show you the satellite imagery, you'll see in the same area that this is mature, beautiful, almost old growth fir and cedar forest. And then you can see how the vegetation changes down here. It's more deciduous wetlands area through here. So the entire tract together provides quite a lot of habitat for animals and plants. So this is the park we're talking about. Let me see if I can get back to you easily. I think I can by going right here. And that's the park. Okay, great. So that's the park area. I'll take you through a little bit of history that I think is pretty cool about the Olson family. The place is named after Olson. And going back over 100 years, in the late 1800s, Emil Olson settled on Bainbridge Island. He actually settled down in Linwood Center. And they originally had land just across from where the Linwood Center, original Linwood Center, like theater and stuff is. They had a son named Emmanuel, and Emmanuel and Edna started a grocery store right there where the theater is now. And they slowly expanded that work until it became actually the movie theater and all of Linwood Center that we know. It was remodeled in the 30s to have that great English Tudor look. And so that was the Olson family. Their son, grandson, I didn't do the math on this, but it must probably be a grandson, lived up higher, or at least owned land here in Rolling Bay. And in 1973, Ted Olson donated his 10-acre plot to the Park District. And he really believed in open space. He believed in land conservation. He believed in preserving the natural environment here on Bainbridge Island. So that was in 1973. The first piece of improvements that were made were to have a nature trail put through, and that was done by a local Boy Scout troop. Troop 565 went in there and built a little loop trail around. So thanks for the kids out there working. And it remained just a normal and lovely park, and it does still. But in 2002, an interesting thing happened. Some of Ted Olson's or Theodore Olson's descendants owned the 5 acres to the east of the park, coming down to Colgren. And the land prices and the taxes were going up, and they were too much to be paid, so they really needed to sell that land. And one way or another, it didn't actually go up for sale, but somehow the neighbor, Deb de Vlieger, who I know well from this era, she said, wait, let me reach out to Eileen Olson, who lives over in Seattle and is one of the descendants. I wonder if we can conserve this property. So she gave her a call, and Eileen said, we need to sell, but we would, most enjoy living on or keeping on our father's or uncle's. I wish I knew, but we'd love to keep Ted's dream alive of having it conserved. So she and Deb together tried to get it bought by the Open Space Commission here on Bainbridge. And I wasn't involved in that time, but the open space deal fell through and they couldn't manage it. And the land sort of sat there for about 4 years. They didn't move hard to sell it. They really wanted to conserve it, weren't sure how to do it. And around 2006, the Bainbridge Island Land Trust got involved, knew that there was energy here in our neighborhood to help conserve it, and they drafted up an option to buy it for a substantial amount less than market value. So the 5 acres then was actually listed at, or appraised at something like $375,000, and the land trust took $120,000 off of that because the owners wanted it to be in conservation, and they accepted, and it all worked out. And then all that had to happen, so that was the deal, but then we had to raise the money. And so in came the rest of us. And this is for me, the most exciting thing to talk about really is community getting together to do good things. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, I don't have to tell you, you all know from your experiences what a great feeling it is to get together with your neighbors and find a common purpose and all work together to achieve a goal. And in 2006, hundreds of us in our neighborhood got together and said, we would really like to raise the money for this. We want to donate to the land trust specifically for increasing by half the land at the Ted Olson Nature Preserve. And through our efforts and our promises that we would help out after it was purchased to maintain the land and look after it, the deal was done. And so in 2006, the original 10-acre preserve became a 15-acre preserve. So we are all really excited about that. And I'm going to show you some of the plants and animals that exist in the preserve. So I hope you're seeing my screen now.
Yes.
Just birds. All of these have actually been seen on the property. And I'm hoping your screen is clear enough. I won't read all the way through, but just a great selection of birds. Great woodpecker. They've seen the hairy woodpecker and the pileated woodpecker. And I can speak to that. I go in the park all the time and can hear the woodpeckers and see the woodpeckers on the trees all the time. Other animals as we go up, Doug squirrel, deer. There was just a beautiful fawn up there last week with spots. It was super cute. The coyotes I'm convinced they have a den in the park. And other people have mentioned that too. There's lots of coyote habitat there. Squirrels, raccoons, wetland animals like frogs. And if we go up, I think it is here, this is also some of the plants we find, and I'll slow down as soon as we get to the top. So wherever there's an X, this was a big observation day back in '07 after the land was attained by the land trust. And, you know, all sorts of fir, hemlock, red cedar, big leaf maple, bitter cherry, and going down to more with alder and willow. And I don't want to read through all these, but you can see by the X's on the right side that there are lots of native plants living in this area. So that's very exciting. Ferns and all sorts of ground cover, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just wanted to give you a quick sense of what's there. I'll stop presenting.
Hey, Mike.
And yes, please.
Hey, do you hear quite a few Swainson thrush in there?
So I have to say that I'm a big picture guy, and I love birds.
Yes.
And the thrush is the one that makes it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So yes, there are thrushes there. And they have that beautiful song, and I do get to see them. So,
oh man, that is my favorite bird. So, and I saw the name there, and I'm like, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So that's just a little bit of background of what's there, and everything's been awesome here at Ted Olson for years and years. For 13 years, nothing has changed except for it's gotten more use. People are on the trails a lot, and people love the area. So 2020, yes.
We were just talking about, has there been any efforts, Reed had mentioned about removing invasive plants there?
Thank you. And hello, Reed. I see you down there.
You go.
Welcome. So during the last 13 years, I can certainly speak to that. I'm sort of breezing past that because the really interesting stuff for me right now is what's happening right now.
Right.
But I will tell you that the conservation efforts and restoration efforts have been ongoing at the park. I was proud and happy to be the park's first steward, as you mentioned earlier. And that just meant, you know, doing an annual survey of the borders and the plants and how the trails are doing, and keeping the park district up to date with any tree fall or issues with the trail, et cetera. During that time, there have been several invasive weed pulls, mainly for ivy and holly specifically. Yes. I know we all see that all over the island. So we've worked on that, of course. And yeah, I would say that we've kept a good eye on it, and things have maintained very well. There was always a very interesting little tension with the extra trail. And for those of you who know the park, there's a main loop and then an offshoot out to Lovegren, and now the offshoot or the trail that goes directly down to Colgren. There's a second little backwards loop in there that some community member put in years and years ago, and the park district never really recognized it. When I was first there, they called that the illegal trail. So I am pleased to say that now that trail has really been opened up and is a second loop, so you can sort of do a figure 8 in the park. So those are some of the things we faced for the last 13 years. And now what I'd love to do, are there any other questions just about sort of what's been happening up to this point with Ted Olson? Looking for hands, anybody?
Yeah.
All right, so here's what happened just a few weeks ago. We were all enjoying our park on a normal, just like we always have, and suddenly realized that there were some orange flags put up, and somebody had cut with a little mini bulldozer, like a bobcat.
Yeah.
They'd gone in and cleared quite a significant amount of like wide, gross trails, and actually nicked a couple of big, beautiful trees and taken out a lot of underbrush just to the north of the Colgren entrance, that 5-acre stand. Wow. And going right up into it, they were clearing it out, and we didn't know what was going on because most of us sort of wrongly assumed that that was all part of the park, right up to our friend Scott Lowry's house. He lives on the corner. And we then quickly learned that the land that is between Scott's house and the park was for sale, and that a real estate agent had, had it cleared so that people could see they could put a house in there. And that was devastating to us who love the understory, and nerve-wracking for all the people who use the park, because one of the things we noted was that that cleared area was within even 6 feet of the trail that we all use, in that beautiful park. So the thought that that could suddenly be sold and cleared and a house put in, or 2 houses, made us spring into action.
Yeah.
And we've got a great neighborhood. I don't know where all of you live, but Bainbridge is full of these awesome neighborhoods and really great communication amongst neighbors. We all walk these streets. Colgren is a great walking street, and people walk up and down Colgren and go into the park and enjoy it. So there was a sudden energy felt amongst all of us, and really headed by a core group. And I will give a shout out to Scott Lowry, who is the neighbor right there adjacent to the property. He and Brian across the street, and Nancy down the street, and Nina across from me, myself, and the 5 of us got together on a Zoom call and said, hey, what are we going to do? This seems very serious. This land's going up for sale. And of course, one of the things we did was contact the land trust. And through our efforts to contact neighbors, and through the land trust's wonderful open-mindedness to what is, for them at this moment, a small project, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later, there was this great convergence. And amongst our neighbors and friends, we managed to elicit more than 100 emails to the land trust saying there is support for protecting this land. And the land trust was able very quickly to ask the sellers to hold off on putting it up on the market. And it was supposed to go on the market about September 1st. The land trust said, please give us until September 10th. You'll note that today is the 11th.
Yesterday, yeah.
Right? They said, please give us till September 10th to consider this as a purchase for the land trust. And the neighbors, we went crazy trying to get together commitments, actually, to show that we were serious, and we really wanted to protect the plants and the animals and the trails that make up Ted Olson, and really protect its boundary. So I guess the most important thing to note is that with those 100 emails, there were many people who said, yes, we will financially support this. And then the land trust has done a great job, a really magnificent and out of the ordinary move to try to help this project happen. And what transpired between 3 days ago and yesterday was that they actually began putting word out. It's called like terms, I think they gave. There's a special name. I'm not a lawyer. But sort of, they presented terms that would work for the sale of the property that they think would be great for the sellers and would also manage to conserve the land. This is like the very first stage, is like putting out the terms, and we don't know yet if the seller is interested, if the seller will give us a positive feedback and say, yes, we can continue negotiations. And so as I understand a land deal like this, especially through an organization like the Land Trust and through neighborhood organizing, it's multi-stepped. There are so many pieces that need to go in place before it's actually a deal. Mm-hmm. So we don't expect to really know that it's going to be a deal for even 3 months.
Wow.
But sometime during the next week, we expect to find out whether or not the seller is interested in coming to terms and figuring out, if we really can make it happen. So I feel cautiously optimistic because we've moved forward. It's just little baby steps, and there's, we put that out to them. They have to accept our interest in it. Then we have to do. I say we. The land trust is acting on our behalf, and I say our behalf because we are all islanders, and we'd love to see this conserved. Then they'd have to do due diligence and have it appraised and come up with a price, and then the seller has to agree on the price, and there's all these little pieces.
Yeah.
And so I am excited to keep the energy going within my community, and certainly reaching out to all of you to be excited about this opportunity to increase the buffer and in fact increase the acreage of the Ted Olson Nature Preserve. And the amount of land we're talking is about 2 acres. So we go from 15 to 17 acres.
Oh, that's quite a bit.
It is quite a bit, yes. And it's significant because it's right on the edge of the wetland, down that lower half. If you remember that forested picture, you saw the light trees making up more of the wet area. And so it's really important for, we believe it's important for the plants and animals and people who love that land. So that's what I had prepared to tell you about. And I would love to hear your questions or thoughts. And before we leave, I can definitely leave you with some ideas about what we can do as citizens, even at this incipient moment. But are there any questions? What do you wonder about?
Wouldn't it be difficult, Mike, for the people to build on that wetland?
So you are hitting a nail on the head, Sheila. Glad you're asking about that. The land has, we believe, 2 buildable plots on the upper reaches. What it would mean is that they'd have to probably make a driveway across the wetland, and I believe that can be done with mitigation for water flow underneath. But there are, we believe, as many as 2 buildable house plots in the upper reaches of those properties. They are being sold. I say the properties, it's actually 2 plots, but they're being sold as one. So it's like an L shape. And I'm happy to show you on the map the actual properties if there's interest in that.
Does the owner currently live on the island?
So I'm sorry I didn't preface with the answer to that question, Brooke. The owner is deceased. I believe her name is Jean Olson, and she was part of the whole Olson crew, as I understand it. But in her will, she said that land was to be sold, and and that there would be many, family beneficiaries and nonprofit beneficiaries. So it's the job of the executor. I mean, they're doing exactly what they have to do. And that is, they need to sell the land responsibly and provide for Jean Olson. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Jean Colgren. It's not Olson, it's Colgren. Her name's Colgren, of Colgren Street. So Jean Colgren, I guess, passed away. And the executors are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And the proceeds of land sale are going not only to her descendants, but also to some nonprofits. So we're taking that all into consideration. Really want to make it mutually beneficial as we move through this.
Yes.
Mike, where are the parking access? Which roads have parking access on them?
Yes.
How many places?
Excellent question. So off of Madison, North Madison, there is the main parking area. And there's room there, I'm estimating, for at least 6 or probably 8 cars. No problem. So that's the main parking area. The park isn't too large. So from that spot, you can really get the whole park, you can get around the whole park. On Lovegren, there's room for 1 or 2 cars along the side of the road. And I've used that pullout many times when I had my little puppy and she was too small to walk all the way there. I pull up on that little bit of grass on the side of the road. You can be all the way off the road. Room for 2 cars on the north side of the property. And then on Colgren itself, I often see people parked. I shouldn't say often. Sometimes people do park along the side of Colgren, and because it's not that busy a road, it's just no big deal, and it seems acceptable. I've never seen an issue with that, and that's, sometimes people park there.
Thanks.
Colgren's a lovely road to walk down.
It is just great.
Yeah.
And in fact, more power to the neighborhoods. I was also part of the effort to keep Colgren from becoming a through street to the north up to Day Road. And many of you may know, but some of you may not, that Colgren has a road end with a small sort of single track trail, like a little trail that goes from the north end of Colgren, I would say about 150 yards to Day Road.
Oh.
And so you can walk through there and get to Day Road. And then actually there's public right of way to go across Day Road to the north, walk down what looks like a driveway past a little bed and breakfast in the woods, and continue along a dirt road that actually used to be more like a path, but now it's the dirt road, to the north, all the way to Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, Knight Road. So it's great walking there. And along that way, there's another loop of trails off to the west, off of that, I guess it's a public throughway or whatever, between Day and Night. There's a whole nother trail. There's a whole nother trail system there. And it has a big rope swing and some wetlands down below. And it's, so there's a lot of stuff that is connected if you sort of know where to go.
Yeah.
I'm happy to tell any of you where to go.
We have inside information here. I like this.
Yeah. What other questions do you have?
Anybody else? You covered things pretty well, Mike.
You're welcome. Allow me to tell you that our efforts as a little five-some core group is to work in close concert with the land trust, assuming that we continue to move forward on all these little pieces, that we're going to work together, and we will be letting people know how they specifically can become a part of our effort. So I won't shy away from enlisting all of you. If you have any interest in helping our effort, word will come out, and I'll put it past Karen to maybe connect with you all again when I have an update. But I think there will, with any luck, if it all moves bit by bit forward, there will be an opportunity to I know in our neighborhood, we're going to dig deep and find a way to make this happen. And so at some point, I'll give you the opportunity to dig deep with us and offer.
Do you have a website right now? Are you starting, any kind of a website for people to contact you?
Brooke, excellent. You are on it. So here's what we've got. We've got friends of Ted Olson at gmail.com as a email site. So friends of Ted Olson. And maybe I should double check that. I'm 99% sure that's the email. So I believe it is friends of Ted Olson at gmail.com. And there has been discussion, Brooke, of having a website as well. I think as we move, if we find out that the seller's interested in pursuing this deal, I think that's a great idea. And I think we'll do it.
Would the land trust also work with you? I mean, they have sent appeals out before for specific pieces of land.
An excellent question. So here's the deal. The land trust is bending over backwards to help us with this.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of organization and support and the whole mechanisms of purchasing. This is no secret. They are in the midst of a gigantic capital campaign for Stand for the Land. And the 5th of 5 properties is now the one they're working on. So financially, they are already committed to that effort and other efforts that they've already signed on the dotted line for.
Right.
So if it comes to pass that we can pursue this deal, it's going to be neighbors helping out and community members helping out specifically for this. And we are not counting on land trust dollars because they're already committed. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for asking. And all of us will have to be very specific if we get to the point where we can actually send a check. We'll say for the Ted Olson Nature Preserve expansion.
Good.
Yeah.
How does the real estate company respond to all this?
So I can't speak to that personally.
Okay.
I know that all I can say is, yes, they delayed for 10 days their sale moment, and that was to give the land trust a chance. And now the terms of sale or terms of agreement offer is in their hands.
Okay.
So we're waiting to hear back, and our fingers are crossed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, it's such a beautiful, special area. It was one of the first areas that I hiked on when we moved here to the island back in 2002.
Nice.
We're hiking with Ron Williamson. He was
yeah.
4-mile hike.
Great. He's the namesake for a big trail there in the Grand Forest up to
Absolutely.
the
Yeah, we were there to
land.
help dedicate that because he's a dear friend. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also the Trillium Trail.
The
Oh,
trillium. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super nice. That's great.
Mike,
Yeah.
this is so exciting. I know our group, our walking group has gone on the Ted Olson Trail. And I'm so pleased that we can go all the way through now to Colton. And
Yes.
I'm looking forward to the next one of our people who would know what's going on, like Bob King or somebody like Karen King might know how to get there. So
Yeah, I would suggest, are you part of that Thursday morning?
yes,
group?
ma'am. Yes, sir. That's
We're
us.
the group.
You guys are excellent. I love it when I occasionally come across you. So yeah, I encourage you to go north across Day Road, and then go down the driveway and come up, and then you walk right past a little bed and breakfast on a little tiny trail. And after you get onto the gravel road on the far side, I think you probably walk about 60 yards, maybe 40 yards, not very far. And on the left, you'll see a little trail that goes up, and it's, especially when it's dry, you can make quite a loop back in the woods there. And it's fun. You have a good time exploring. As soon as the rains come, the lower part of the loop becomes less passable.
Yeah. Mushy.
Super
We've
much-
walked in mush before.
I'm sure. Great.
Oh, this is
Well,
wonderful.
Karen, I hope I can give you a positive recap, or not
Yeah.
recap, a little update is what I meant to say.
Yes.
At some point soon, and I'll let you know. And if it works to come back and address you all again, I'd be happy to do it.